So we've had a number of people ask us lately why we chose the truck that we chose to go full-time RVing with. And what we chose was the Ford F450. Today, I think I'm gonna try to explain why we did that.
But the answer might not be quite what you expected. But before I get to that, I'm gonna give you some of the pros and cons that I have about this truck. And we're gonna get it cleaned. So, pros of the truck, that are the things that I absolutely love. The ride. And this one, I think, has some mixed reviews, and here's why I think that I like the ride of this truck. So I came from an F150 as my daily driver, still have it, still love that truck. It rides great. Going to a Super Duty, and I've had a Super Duty before, I had an F250 before my F150, I knew what I was getting into with a large truck and how they were going to ride. It's a 1-ton truck. It's not going to ride like a car or even a half-ton pickup truck. When I drive this thing, I don't think it rides a whole lot harder than my F150 did. Now, there are exceptions. Bridge transitions with this truck, and it will hit hard and sometimes buck you around. And in those cases, yeah, I agree. The truck rides rough. But I have to believe you're going to find that in any 1-ton pickup truck. I don't think that's specific to an F450. The Continental tires that come standard on this truck are absolutely bricks. So I'm sure that contributes. I know there's options to go to different tires that might ride better. I'm going to get the mileage out of these first before we do that. I don't think they're a bad tire. I think my only complaint to Ford is that they put just standard tires on the front. They're not a steer tire. And even with proper rotation, they wear a little bit funny. There's some chunking that happens on those front tires because they're using what is really more of a drive tire, not a steer tire. So I look forward to when that time comes, but I've seen guys getting 100,000 miles out of their tires. I've already got almost 35,000 miles on these tires, and tread-wise, other than that chunking on the front, they look great. So I'm going to continue to use them until we wear them down. One of the things that maybe is gimmicky, I gotta say I love it. I think I found a lot of times that it's come in to be a positive thing, and that is the wider front track on the F450 versus the F350 that gives you a tighter turning radius. Towing, yeah, probably not necessary. Normal, just running down the highway, yeah, who cares? But this thing is massive, and while you can go to maybe like a Walmart and pull into a stall straight and not have to worry about tight turning, my wife loves Starbucks, and the kids every once in a while want a cheeseburger somewhere, and to go in and park in some of those places or even drive through a drive-through with this thing, I don't know that I could do it without the tight turning, and so I love it. I've also been able to make U-turns in places that you could not do with a standard dually like an F350, and I'm not even sure that you could do with any of the Super Duty pickup trucks. And so I love it. I think it's worth the money. Does everybody need it? Yeah, probably not. Do I find it useful with the RV? We haven't had a lot of situations where I've had to tight turn the RV or back into a tight spot where I thought that I needed that, so I can't really say. Another pro is the absolute power of this truck. I don't know a lot about the standard 6.7, so I can't tell you, what that power difference feels like, and I don't even know that I needed the high output. When I found this truck, that wasn't one of the boxes I was trying to check. It just happened to work out that all of the other boxes were checked. But we pull that massive fifth wheel, and I just, after pulling tons of trailers over the years, I don't feel like it's even there, which is fantastic. This truck just doesn't have to work. We've gone up some pretty decent hills with it, and again, it doesn't ever feel like you're stressing the truck out. We pulled in high winds, up hills. It just doesn't matter. And I'm sure that 10-speed transmission has a lot to do with that too, which, again, another another pro that I have to mention and really love about this truck. The steps on this truck are another pro. I've seen some people that don't like the steps on the side of the bed. I love them. They come in really, really handy, especially when we're hooking up on travel day. I can, hit that footstep, get right up into the bed, and I'm able to access the fifth wheel. I'm able to access the breakaway chain, things like that, really quickly without having to crawl in from the back and kind of get in between things. It just makes that so much easier to deal with. Same for the step that's built into the top of the tailgate. I'm not sure if that's available in some of the other brands. Ford has it, and I'm not sure which models, but I really like that. It's really nice to be able to pull that down. And same thing on move days. I can jump up in the truck via that step, and I can access everything, get the bed ready to go before I hook the truck up. And same thing, when we're done unhooking, it's easy for me to climb up in there, roll out the tonneau cover, get everything tucked away. So a couple of honorable mention pros to the F450. One being the 48-gallon fuel tank. So I love having that extra capacity. Just makes it so that we have to make fewer stops. It doesn't save us any money, but fewer stops makes life a little easier. The other honorable mention, and I just love this about the Super Duty in general, and I think all of the manufacturers are doing this now. I don't know that for sure, but I believe they are. The puck system that comes standard in the bed to mount your hitches in. A lot of the other comfort features of the truck, they're great. I think you're going to get something with a higher trim level. You're going to get all those things, so I'm not really going to mention a lot about that. My wife loves the heated seat. I love the air-conditioned seat. This particular one has heated seats in the back, so the kids like that when it's cold. Four-wheel drive on this, I think I've only ever used once, and it was briefly. I just don't put myself in a lot of situations where I need the four-wheel drive. It's nice to know I have it, but it's not something that I rely on. My absolute favorite thing about this truck, though, is the heads-up display. So it projects up onto the windshield. It gives me my miles per hour, gives me some of the directional things if the GPS is running. It kind of gives me an idea if it thinks that I'm too close to the vehicle ahead, tells me if the cruise control's on, some other things. So why do I really like it? So let's say we're pulling through a very busy city or construction area, and I'm trying to monitor my mirrors the best I can. I'm trying to look at the camera at the rear of the RV, and also try to maintain my eyes as far forward as possible. And maybe I need to see what my speed is, or maybe I need to see something that's upcoming on the GPS. Maybe we've got a turn coming up, something like that, and I don't have time to glance down at the screen, or I think it even shows me side to side if there's a vehicle in my blind spot with a little light. Maybe I don't have time to glance over at my mirrors and do that because there's just so much congestion. That's where I really love it. I can see those things right in front of me without having to take my eyes off of what's out on the road in front of me. So it's in my peripheral, and I can get a lot of data, a lot of information all at once, and still stay focused on the road ahead. Some of the cons of the truck. Some of these are just the nature of the beast. So the absolute size of this truck. There's places that we would like to go, like some of the national parks that are hard to get into. If you watched our Zion video, we needed a permit to go through the tunnel at the east entrance because of the size of the truck. And there's been a few places that we just couldn't get into. But again, we were going to need a 1-ton dually no matter what. I think I would have that issue no matter what the truck is. So hard to say that's a con specifically to the F450. That's just the nature of it. I mentioned the tires. I think the way those tires chuck on the front, to me, that's a con. I would like to see Ford maybe do something different there. The stock bump stops, wasn't really a fan of those. They were, in my opinion, maybe kind of useless. Would I do airbags? I don't know. I've read and seen mixed review on airbags. For the cost, the Timberlands to me just made a ton of sense. The adaptive steering is something that I'm not a huge fan of. In fact, I've actually turned it off. What I don't like about it is it overreacts. And so I've found instances where if I just touch the line on the right side of the road, rather than pushing me back in between the lines, it tugs to the right real quick, and I don't like that. I don't think it's enough that it would upset the vehicle, but it's enough that it kind of catches your attention and go, whoa, where are you going, truck? If cruise control, I don't mind. My con on the adaptive cruise control, though, is if you're just kind of cruising along and not really paying attention, you might get stuck behind a car that's doing 5 mile an hour under what you were wanting to do and not realize it. It's just going to kind of maintain with that car in front of you. And I've caught myself where I'm just, enjoying the ride and not realizing that we're, quite a bit slower than what I was actually intending to go. Another con that, again, is not specific to the truck or to the F450 is just the service costs. So if you're going from a smaller truck to a Super Duty in general, doesn't even have to be the dually or an F450, be prepared for higher service costs. I can change the oil myself for a couple $100 or do a full service for a few $100. If you take it into Ford, which we did on one of our first few months in, we were somewhere where I couldn't service my truck myself, just didn't have a place to do it, and I took it to Ford. It was $750 for oil change, filters, fuel filters, and tire rotation. I, from now on, do everything in my power to time when I'm going to need to service the truck, being somewhere that I can do it myself. I knew what I was getting into. It wasn't a surprise to me. I'm just trying to make you aware that be prepared for that. And that's something that you got to stay on top of anyways. Make sure that you service your vehicle regularly. Don't let it go just because it's more expensive. In fact, more so be on top of it because the truck as a whole is more expensive. And really, there's only two more, and they're kind of what I'll call major cons. One of them I don't think is specific to Ford or the F450, but it might be. I just don't have the data to support otherwise. And the other one is specific to the truck. So, DEF fluid usage is the first one. And I've heard people say that the Ford or the F450 uses way more than the other brands. I don't know that. I'll see if I can look up some data and see if we can find something. I haven't actually ran the numbers, but if I had to guess, I'm getting about 750 to 800 miles out of a full tank of DEF. And I'll have to look up what the tank capacity is. I think it's roughly 5 gallons, but I might be wrong about that. So DEF usage, and really my biggest gripe with DEF is that it just exists in the first place. I mean, without getting too political, it's something that the government came up with, and I'm sorry, but anytime the government's involved, it's complicated, it's unnecessary, and all it does is waste money. So that's my view on DEF. It could go away. I don't think it's needed. I hope that in some point in time it does. Now to the specific con of this truck, and something that I really wish it had. Its sister, the F350, has, which I'm not quite sure why Ford chose to do this. I think I just read recently that the 2026 model, maybe it came back in. I think you can hook up to the F450 and turn this on. It requires maybe some other pieces, but that is the onboard tire pressure monitor. So all of the other Ford trucks have it. The F450 doesn't. Again, I think you can get ForeScan, hook it up, turn it on, but it maybe requires some other components. I haven't really dug too deep into that. I have a tire monitoring system for the RV that has capacity to add the monitors to the truck. I just haven't got around to doing that. That requires me putting the extensions on the wheels, and I just haven't done that. Eventually I will, because I would like to see the tire pressure as we're going. So that's really the cons. Again, overall, I absolutely love this truck. This is my favorite truck that I've ever had. I don't remember remember how many trucks I've owned over time. All Fords. I love the Ford quality. My F250 had over 500,000 miles on it. I loved it. I'm sure it's still going today. My F150's got 250,000 miles on it. It's still going. Drives like it's brand new. And so I expect to have this for a long time and put many, many miles on it. And that, for me, was one of the big reasons that I stuck with Ford. I've always been a Ford guy. I might have considered the other brands if their Super Duty offering was still having some of the problems that they had in the 10, 15 years ago with their head gaskets. I probably would have looked elsewhere. But I've heard nothing but good things about the 6.7. My experience with it so far has been fantastic. So that's why I went with the F450. I can't say that it's for everybody. That price range for new is not going to be for everybody. There's certainly used options out there. There's certainly lower trim models out there if you need something cheaper. But if you're having to pull something as large as the fifth wheel that we're pulling, and even some of the larger tag trailers, I can't see going any other way. Oh yeah, one other message to Ford here. Bring back the saddle leather seats in the King Ranch. I, for years, wanted a King Ranch and couldn't wait to get one. Got this one not seeking a King Ranch, and even though I love the seats in it, I'm disappointed that they're not the old saddle leather seats that they used to be. If you're going to have that high-end trim level and charge what you charge for it, put the saddle leather back in it. So we ended up choosing a 2023 F450 with the high output 6.7 liter diesel. When we were seeking this truck out, I was looking for was something that would easily handle our Grand Design Solitude 391 DL, which is about 43 foot long and I think around 19,000 GVWR. We'll look that up. So it really needed something I could pull and allow us to be comfortable. Dodge has an option, Chevrolet has an option, Ford has an option, but in the end, what I was really looking at was the difference between a Ford F450 and a Ford F350. When I was shopping around, there wasn't a great deal of difference in price between the 350 and the 450. Looking at what I was looking for, you could certainly get base models that were quite a bit cheaper. You could certainly get lesser trim packages that were quite a bit cheaper. But that being said, there wasn't as many of those lesser options out there, and in some cases they didn't offer anything but bench seating in the front, and I wanted the captain's chairs for comfort as well as the console. So that put us in some of the nicer trim packages. I just didn't see a great enough difference in price for me to justify not going to one of those higher end packages. However, I did make offers on some XLTs, I made offers on Platinums, and ultimately ended up with this King Ranch. One of the things I see all the time is people talk about availability of the F450 and they're being hard to get. I think that can be true if you're just showing up at a dealership hoping that they're going to have a dually, and more often than not you're probably going to only find an F350 if they even have one. But when I was shopping for both our truck and RV, it didn't bother me to look anywhere in the continental United States. So that gave me what I think a lot of buying power. I could price shop, I could find a truck that I actually wanted, and I didn't care if I had to fly somewhere to go get it, drive somewhere to go get it. In the end, we only had to go 2 states over. We ended up going up to Minnesota. It was a 6-7 hour drive. You might be asking, what was the checklist that I was using when trying to find the truck that I wanted? So it's a pretty simple list. There were some things that I knew that I wanted just because I thought I would like them, hadn't had them in another vehicle. So very top of that list was the heads-up display. I hadn't had it, but again, my pros of having it were why I wanted it. Just having experience pulling trailers and knowing that we would be going through large cities in our travels, that was really at the top of the list. Number 2 on the list that put us into that F450 territory, and this was kind of a weak one, but it was the the wide front stance that gave us the tighter turning radius. So again, I could imagine times that was going to be something that we might need just because of the size of the truck, and not wanting to get ourselves stuck in a bad situation. Number 3 on the list was the climate control. So being able to have the zones, being able to have the heated seats. I wasn't really looking for the cooled seats, but I love it now that I have it. Wasn't really looking for the heated seats in the back, but the kids have loved that. I mentioned the captain's chairs. Wanted to be comfortable while we were driving. Didn't really want a bench seat. I don't mind a bench seat for a daily driver, but not for the kind of traveling what we were wanting to do with this truck. Of course, needed to be a 1-ton dually. There's no way around that. For what we were going to pull, that was a necessity. I wanted the puck system for the hitch in the truck. Turns out that for that year or model year, that was standard, so it wasn't really anything that I was up against not being able to find. And my color choice was another one. So I was looking for 3 different colors. White was the top of my list, silver was number 2, and blue was number 3. And in the end, we ended up with the antimatter blue, which I absolutely love. There's times it looks black under the right lighting when it's not clean, but when it's clean, man, it shines. So I really love it. It's funny, if you asked me what my dream truck was 15, 20 years ago, I would have told you a blue King Ranch Super Duty. Another item near the top of the checklist was the exhaust brake. So I know a lot of the different brands have them now. Some of them are better than others, but that was an item we absolutely wanted. Some of the other things I've done, and this camera right here is actually sitting on one of them right now. We've added this bullet point mounting system here on the dash of the truck, and that allows me to put my tire monitor. I have a rear view camera that's on the RV. I can put that monitor up there and also mount a camera like I am right now. So I have all those things on the dash ready to go, and I don't have to be searching for them. I can see them clearly, and then lay them out easily. And there's other things that we can attach to that. It's pretty modular, so it's a really neat system, and we'll leave some links to some of these products down below. Another item that we put in just to make our life easier is a product that mounts Milwaukee pack-out boxes on the sidewalls of the bed of the truck so that I can carry my tools and some spare parts and things like that, and allows me to get to them easy and kind of neatly tucks them out of the way so they're not sliding around the bed. And that's from a company called Integral Products. I believe I have that right. I'll put the link down below for that as well. So really pretty simple. We haven't gone in and done anything crazy. Other things that we've done, obviously spray and bed liner we did right away. I did have the truck ceramic coated. I don't know if I would do that again. It's the first time I've had a vehicle ceramic coated. I was hoping it would help make it easier to keep clean. And when I wash it and, maybe not have to wax it as often, I don't think it's any better than it would be without it. So I don't know. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. If you have ceramic coat or you've got experience with it, let me know your thoughts on that. Would you do it again? Was it worth the money? Did it live up to expectations? For me, it didn't. So I just don't know if I'd do it again. I did do one modification to the truck that I think made a big difference, especially with those bridge transitions. And that was to add the timber and bump stops. So we took it from the stock bump stop to the timber and bump stop. Do you still hit those transitions hard? Yeah, absolutely. And you feel them. But the bucking isn't there. So with the standard bump stop, you would hit those transitions or a rut really, really hard, and man, it just hammered the truck. Then the back of the truck would just absolutely go into a bucking situation. And, with that big fifth wheel, it's not a lot of fun. It wasn't enough to make it feel like you were losing control. It just was a ride that was not enjoyable, especially when you were, again, in those places where the roads are terrible and you're maybe doing that for 3 or 4 hours. Just by the time we would get to the RV park for the night, I was done. I was wore out, and shouldn't be after just a few hours of driving. I also had the windows tinted, so the rear window and the side windows all match. I I don't remember the percentage that we added. I'll add that down here below. And then I had the front window coated as well with a protective, it's not really a tint, but one that blocks UVs, and I'll put the name of that down here below. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. If you'd like me to do a video or videos with more detail on the bullet point mounting system, the integral mounting system, or our B&W hitch, please let me know. Say something in the comments, or if you have experience with those items yourself that maybe are different than what I shared, I'd love to hear from you. So please leave us a comment.